My name is Sekola Titsia. I am a research scholar from Tezpur University, and the paper that I'll be presenting today, it is a part of my ongoing thesis, and it is titled Tonal Contrast and the Grammatical Functions of Tone in Chokri. So before we get into tone, it is important to know the concept of pitch. According to Yip 2002, pitch is a perceptual term that can be described as the relative highness or lowness of the frequency as perceived by the ear, which depends on the number of vibration per second produced by the vocal cord. In other words, we can say that pitch is a property of sound which we perceive as low or high sound. So all the languages of the world, they make use of pitch variations in some way or another to convey different types of information. Around 70% of the world languages are tonal, and with that, Sub-Saharan African has the largest concentration of tonal languages in the world. Many of the Southeast Asian languages such as Chinese, Vietnamese, Thai have tone system. Apart from that, we also have tone system in the sub-Indian continent. Many or most of the Tibeto-Burman languages are tonal. And apart from that also, we see Indo-Aryan languages having tone languages such as Punjabi and Sylheti. The Tibeto-Burman languages of Nagaland of India are far from being explored, and as such, Chokri, the language under study here, is also not been explored yet. And the only work that can be traced to is by Chokri, is by Brian Behlenberg and Jalil Nenu, titled Chokri Peg Dialect Phonetics and Phonology. So in this study, they have claimed that there are 4 tones in Chokri and 1 allotone. However, apart from giving out the number of tones, no further arguments were made. And apart from this, we also see works on tone in one of the closest, genetically closest language, Tinidie, by Coulier and Savio Meyase. Coulier has claimed that there are 5 tones, while Meyase claims that there are only 4 tones, and that the 5th tone, it is a contour tone, but it doesn't surface in the pronunciation. The language, Chokri, is a classified language. It has been classified as a Tibeto-Burman language under the Angami Puchuri group of the Kuki-Chin Naga. Chokri is the name of the language. We can say Chokri or Chokrije, and the community that speaks the language are called simply Chokri or Chokrimi, Chokri people. And they are the native of Nagaland and resides predominantly in Peg district. And it is one of the 3 subgroups of a tribe called Chekisang. Chekisang, as you can see, is an acronym of the 3 language communities: Chokri, earlier known as Chakra, Keja, and Sangtam. So as per the census 2011, there is a total of 111,062 native speakers, out of which 91,216 speaks Chokri as their mother tongue. And then the language has been marked vulnerable by UNESCO. And it is important to mark that so far, Chokri does not have a standard or a common variety, and that each village has its own distinct variety. For this paper, we have carried out an experiment, and for that, we used 64 homophonous words with 2 ways, 3 ways, 4 ways, and 5 ways contrast, and 7 native speakers of Tipu's village. We are considering Tipu's village because, like said, there is no common variety, and that every village has its own distinct variety. So we have chosen this village, and the participants produce priming sentences followed by the target words in isolation and controlled environment saying, say X again. So X being the target word, and data annotation and process was conducted using PRAT. The methods: the informant were asked to repeat each target word in isolation and embedded in the controlled environment for 5 times. After the annotation, a PRAT script was written to extract the fundamental frequency at every 10% of the entire nucleus, and a total of 2,240 tokens were examined. So this is the result. As you can see, we see a five-way contrast. This is and this is speaker-wise distribution, still showing that there are five ways. And the result discussion. So in contrary to the claim of Bilingberg and Menu, who claim that there are 4 tones and 1 allotone, the experimental findings confirmed 5 contrastive tones with 4 level tones, extra high, high, mid, low, and 1 contour tone, that is the rising tone. So I've given an example here. P, 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 P. Those are the 5 tones. The contrastive levels of registered tone, the level tones are not as farther apart as a two-way contrast owing to the high number of level tones. And in the earlier figure, we've seen that the level tones, the registered tone, have a pitch difference of at least 20 Hz between them, which according to Kong is required to maintain phonological contrast. And the contour tone in Chokri can be said to be a glide or a cluster tone. That is, the starting point of the contour tone constitute the mid-level tone and the ending point constitute the high-level tone. So it goes from one tone to another tone, which is already established level tone. And then the contour tone in Chokri is thus a cluster of 2 existing level tone or 2 tones juxtaposed together, giving rise to mid-rising contour tone. And the question arises: what syllable, what kind of syllable can bear tone in Chokri? So for that, vowels and syllabic consonant can host tone in Chokri. Example 1, it shows that all the vowels in Chokri can host tone. Example 2 shows that nasals, syllabic nasals can also host tone. So it is taking the tone. Grammatical tone. Tone can be lexical as well as grammatical. Some tonal language use tone only for lexical contrast, while some other language use tone to convey grammatical meaning. Tone can be said to have grammatical functions if the distinctive pitch marks contrast in grammatical features as well as tense, aspects, and case, etc. In the words of Hyman, there is nothing that grammatical tone can do that lexical tone cannot, and vice versa. Tone in Chokri functions both as lexical as well as grammatical, and we can say that the grammatical tone in Chokri is equivalent to that of a bound morpheme, which are assigned with grammatical value. So here is an example: high tone marking progressive aspect. So in example 12 is the word T with an underlying low tone, but when a progressive aspect is added, like itile. So itile versus itile. So when the progressive aspect is added, the tone changes. Similarly, we have the example with progressive aspect where the tone changes. Here, extra high tone marking perfect aspect, itile versus itile. I repeat, itile versus itile. Due to time constraint, I will not be reading out the entire examples. And the principles of grammatical tone. So now we have learned that the high tone, extra high tone, and high tone and extra high tone are already established level tone. So how is the grammatical tone different from that of a lexical tone, and how can we distinguish between these two forms? So to answer that, we have observed that Chokri does not allow vowel clusters or long vowels in the underlying level. So in the surface level, when we see a vowel cluster like a or long vowel a, we know that the vowel in the penultimate position carries the lexical tone and the final vowel is assigned the grammatical tone. Now with that, another question arises as to why the language allows paragoge rather than assigning the tone to the existing vowel. This we have already discussed, but the language can assign one tone per short vowel. Since one short vowel can host only one tone, a new tone-bearing unit identical to that of the pre-existing tone-bearing unit is added, which will carry the grammatical tone. And another important thing to remember here is that when the lexical tone and the grammatical tone are identical, like high, high, or extra high, no additional tone-bearing unit is inserted. Instead, the existing tone-bearing unit, which is usually the vowel, goes through a process of vowel lengthening to host the grammatical tone. The grammatical aspect tone in Chokri does not overlay or override the lexical tone. Rather, it concatenates with the existing tone, creating a contour tone. So this is the concatenated form of tone in Chokri. And with the aspect tone, we have also seen instances of tone spreading, and it serves as an agreement marker. So in example 22, iluvatito. So to here is the future marker. But when we bring this progressive aspect high marker, the future marker to changes to high, like low to high. So iluvatito versus iluvatitole. So here we say that the future marker changes its tone to agree with the progressive aspect that in the immediate future you are going to eat food. Chokri also used tone to mark modalities such as imperative, request, permissions. Like the aspect tone, grammatical mood assign new TBU, and the new tone and the tone of the new TBU concatenates with the existing tone. So for imperative, it is marked with low tone, 自治四的, and permit, like 四的 or 八的. And when we ask someone to do something for us or request, 自治四的 or 八的. So considering this and following the example of Roll 2018, we can say that Chokri exhibits neutral, non-dominant grammatical tone. That is the concatenation of tone. It does not delete the trigger tone, the target tone, but rather it comes and join with the existing tone, as we have seen in that of aspects and mood, as well as subtractive dominant grammatical tone, that is replacement of the underlying tone of the target revalued with a grammatical tone that we have seen in the cases of agreement marker in future. With that, we have come to the end of the presentation. As mentioned, this is a paper that is still ongoing. So if any queries, I would be glad to answer, and also any observation or suggestion to further refurbish the paper, I would really appreciate it. These are the complete references.
When we are talking about the grammatical tone, the example I don't quite remember. Can you just go back to that slide where you have talked about grammatical tone? Because I was wondering whether some morphemes had been dropped and which has been replaced by tone. Is it that case?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Is that the one I am writing? Okay. So is it the case that some morpheme has been deleted, which has been replaced by tone?
Yes, that is also possible, ma'am. So we can say, let's go. Iluvatizle. So here, z can carry the progressive marker. So we delete that, and then the tone of this z, it remains a floating tone, and it comes and concatenates with the verb.
Okay. Yeah, because sometimes in the case of Tenidia also, there is a case where
Yes,
you have some morphemes which have been dropped, and then
yes,
these morphemes they are replaced by tone. So in such cases, one cannot really call them contour tones, because like morphemes have been dropped and they have been replaced by tones. So I seem to be repeating myself. So is it the case as Penivia
uh-huh.
in Chokri too?
Yes. So,
Yes.
ma'am, why I did not include this is because we can also say ilvatizle. So the progressive
Hmm.
marker, the tone is already here, and z
Yes,
can
but
also
in the
continue.
T relay,
So
in the T
it can,
relay, yes,
yes, so
is some morpheme being dropped there?
yes, z, which I will say is a continuous tense.
Okay,
So ilvatizle, we can say that, and we can also say
all right,
ilvatizle. So if
okay.
both are progressive,
Um,
both cannot occur together.
because in Penivia also we have examples.
Which one, ma'am?
Miss CIIL is an excellent paper.
Thank
I
you so
intensely enjoyed it, and
Thank you
what you
so much.
have proven, I
Can you
think
hear
this is
me?
common to all the 10 group. Aspect can affect tone
Yeah.
and no long vowels underlyingly, which is a very important point. Lexical tone versus grammatical tone, and modality can affect tone. So you have made very good points. Uh, I wish more people do more work on these languages so that we understand more of what is happening, and it will
Yes.
be a great contribution to our knowledge of Tibeto-Burman languages, which is still, I think, in the infancy stage.
Yes,
So more
sir.
and more people should come, more and more people should work together, and more people like us should interact together. Then only would we be able to make a good contribution towards reaching the goal of analyzing TB language, Tibeto-Burman language, and especially the Naga languages.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
really fascinated with these languages. I've been working for a long time with Mimi Kavichusa, and let's hope that we'll do more work. Thank you.
Thank you,
It's a
sir.
wonderful
Thank you.
presentation. It's a great presentation. Thank you. And very clear. You are very clearly expressing yourself and the tones also. Very
Thank you,
well
sir.
manifested. Thanks a lot.
Yes, I'm just
Yeah.
providing some of the examples for grammatical tone. So the verb, it changes from the high tone, wo to wo, ngo, and to ngo. So that is a very clear-cut case of grammatical tone operating there. So maybe you can take this into consideration too. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
First of all, I must congratulate to Dr. Sekoli for her nice, thoughtful paper, nice presentation, and Dr. Subbarao is also present here, and he has made some wise comments, no doubt. Thank you, sir. And I have a simple query. I think this is Chokri is also called Chokru. Is it? Am I correct?
Yeah. Earlier, I think in most of the classification, it has been classified as chakra. Chakra.
Chakra. Okay.
Yes.
And single one query is there, though you have focused on, your paper is on tonal contrast and grammatical functions. Simply, I
Yes.
want to know whether they are allotones at the phonological level. Allotones.
Allotones.
May I answer this? Ma'am, we are actually looking into it. As of now, we didn't come across any allotones. So, in one of the earlier work, actually mentioned about 4 tones, level tones, and 1 allotone. But here, actually, from the experiments that we conducted, we came across only 5 tones. One is contour, and the 4 remaining 4 are level tones. So, we have the data for the morphonological kind of processes where we try to check the root with different kind of affixes, both prefix and suffix. So maybe after that we will be able to comment on the allotone part. But as of now, we didn't come across any.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Amos, for a very clear explanation about it.